Hello, EKN Nation. Welcome to a new edition of our EKN Debrief. It is episode number 114, Tuesday, June the 27th, 2023. The event we're going to talk about today, David Cole back in the office after being at the USPKS Indiana Grand Prix at Newcastle Motorsports Park in Newcastle, Indiana. Lots to talk about midway through a 5-race program. So, again, lots to talk about. If you caught any of the coverage on the EKN radio network or through Kart Chaser, there was some exciting action throughout the weekend, and we'll dive into that after this. Let's talk about this week's show, though, being presented by Parolin USA. It all started in 1994 when former kart driver Albino Parolin decided to move his passion for karting from the track to his small workshop. That's when Parolin was born. Parolin USA is North America's source for Parolin products, and we run a factory race team at all the major Superkarts USA, USPKS, and Rock Cup USA events. The Parolin chassis line for 2023 includes the Invader shifter, the Le Mans Tag single-speed chassis for junior and senior drivers, the 28mm Opportunity model for the cadet classes, and the Daytona 4-cycle chassis. Get on the chassis that's winning. Drive a Parolin. For more information, head to ParolinUSA.com. All right, let's bring David Cole in here now. He was, of course, trackside throughout the entire weekend for the Indiana Grand Prix at the United States Pro Kart Series program back Newcastle Motorsports Park. David, June the 22nd to 25th, the official date. Round 3 of a 5-race program, and only one main event each weekend, but lots of points up for grabs throughout the heat races. All in all, I checked out quite a bit of the action, and action it was. There was a lot going on.
It was action-packed weekend. That is for sure. No real dominant performances aside from maybe one driver that kind of really stood out throughout the weekend. Maybe two drivers really, but everything went down to the wire pretty much, including all the heat races, qualifying sessions, and of course the main events that were held on Sunday. And what was an interesting weather day because it started out with the threat of rain. The rain came through and lightning hit the area. So we had to go on a lightning delay for about 30 minutes before we could wrap up the warm-up sessions in the morning. But that wet weather made for a wet racetrack for the one LCQ race that we had, and then made for an interesting mini Swift main event that we'll get into later. But and then it was hot, very hot, nearly 90 degrees the rest of the day with the sun shining. And then all of a sudden, as we were doing our podium ceremonies, thankfully inside because of the way the wind was just howling throughout the final hour of the day. The big heavy rainstorm came through and lots of wind, lots of rain. There's actually tornadoes in the Whiteland area, if you are familiar with the Indianapolis area. So, all the best to anybody affected by the tornadoes that hit the area. But thankfully, we were all inside, but made for some tough closing minutes and hours for the teams packing up and getting out of Newcastle. That's back-to-back weekends too. Like literally at the Superkarts USA Spring Nationals in Utah, it was the same thing. We didn't even have the podiums on Sunday because it was so everybody was literally holding their tents down. So you're saying the same thing happened. That's tough for those teams, right? Back-to-back. When you want a nice, relaxing cleanup and pack. Man, I hate it when it's like that. Yeah, and I think one of them was Chad Docken Racing that had their brand new tent not wrecked, but damaged because of the wind and weather. So I didn't confirm that, but that was what I was told. So again, that's it's almost, Trinity Karting Group did the thing right. They said we're just going to leave everything up. It's staked down, ready to go. We'll come back and tear it down later. So a lot of teams waited for that rain to pass through. So it was, but just the way the weather just kind of hit the area. I mean, it was pretty hectic inside the main building there.
Let's do our traditional by the numbers segment here, David, as we again diving through this EKN debrief of the USPKS event at Newcastle. Started the season off with 303 entries at Orlando, dropping down to 284 at Speed Sport, leveling off essentially 287 with a couple of walk-ups there at Newcastle. Still tremendous numbers, man. When you're looking at 284 as being your lowest race entry so far, and again, talking about 8 classes as well, just great numbers across the board for USPKS.
Yeah, truly good numbers. All categories above at the 20 mark or above. So we were able to do that with Pro Shifter having its biggest category or biggest class of the year at 20. The largest category of the weekend was KA100 Junior. That was at 59. So we did have an LCQ for that category, as they did move the maximum number of drivers on the racetrack to 50. So every category essentially was under that except for KA100 Junior.
Just what about senior? Were there 51? Did they run all 51 in the main, or did we get any drop off?
Yeah, I'm not. I think there was actually somebody who dropped out during the weekend, but yeah, they all 51 were in no matter what. Yeah.
Nice. And again, big numbers for X30 Pro at 36. The juniors up a little bit from Texas to 23. And again, I always kind of come back to the great numbers in micro and mini. 35 in the micro category, 44 in mini Swift. They've literally dropped one racer each event. 46 at Orlando, 45 and 44. You're going to get a couple drivers midway through the season, likely moving up to junior as well. But 44 drivers in the mini Swift and 35 in micro is fantastic.
It is, yeah, and the field is very competitive. That was one thing we saw throughout the weekend. Mini Swift category, a number of drivers in contention, especially at the Newcastle circuit, where a lot of drivers like that facility and do very well there. The Micro Swift up to 35, so it's second best number next to 39 at Speed Sports. So again, we're talking almost 80 drivers under the age of 12 competing at the event.
Yeah, and shout out to my guys on the other end of the spectrum. KA100 Master, good field there. I watched a bit of that, and obviously not surprising. The big guns, the big names we've seen over the last couple of years working their way to the front in that category.
Yeah, still missing a few names that we'd like to see come back in that class. But that's Masters drivers racing. They just sometimes the schedules don't fit and aren't able to be at every single event. But again, 19 is a good number, and hopefully we'll continue to improve that. We're missing Tommy Anderson. We talked about that in the outlap. So this was his drop race. So it would have been at 20. But we added Caleb Ineski. I didn't even talk about that. So he showed up Saturday morning, literally missed warm-up Saturday morning, even though they had the cart put Mike Doty Racing, Brandon Jarvis Crack Racing, put a cart together for him. He showed up. His first session was the first heat race on Saturday. And so started at the back of the field throughout the weekend. And actually made his way into the top 10 before wrecking on the last lap of the main event.
We'll talk more about that, folks. Of course, we got to work our way through here. Lots to talk about after this first break in the action. We'll come back and we'll dive into the paddock pass. Lots of stuff for David to bring to the forefront here under the spotlight from a weekend at Newcastle. Don't go anywhere. Just getting things rolling for this edition of the Debrief. For over 35 years, George Barks has been deeply connected to shifter kart racing in the U.S., and he's been dedicated to one of the most iconic brands in the sport, TM. For over 3 decades, George Barks TM Racing USA has been supplying engine builders and kart shops with the TM product line as a trusted importer and distributor. Current customers include Darcy DeCoste Racing, Ron White Mirage Motorsports, and Two Wild Karting. Dealer inquiries are invited. The KZ and OKN class are enjoying excitement and growth this year, and TM Racing USA has all the available TM engines in stock. You can count on TM Racing USA for competitive prices and superior customer service. George has developed his stellar reputation of expertise and professionalism through his 30-plus years in the sport. Here's George to tell you in his own words.
I'm George Barks. For over 30 years, I've been proud to represent the TM Racing brand here in the United States. I know the product line inside and out, and we always have products in stock. I'd love to get the opportunity to add you to our network.
From complete engine packages to each and every part in the motor, George Barks TM Racing USA is the go-to source for TM products. Connect with George via email. It's BarksTMRacing@AOL.com or call 310-714-6907.
Are you ready to go from karts to cars? Since 1975, the Skip Barber Racing School has taken great drivers and made them champions. Today, we're proud to welcome the next generation of winners. Make the transition from karts to cars with the Skip Barber Formula Race Series. You'll compete at the most iconic tracks in America. Race weekends include your very own equalized Formula 4 race car, a professional crew, expert instruction, video and data analysis, hospitality, and more. This is the place to fulfill your dream of becoming a champion. Sign up today by calling 866-932-1949 or visit us at skipbarber.com.
Welcome back to Debrief number 114. It is June the 27th, just a couple days on from the USPKS trip to Newcastle Motorsports Park for the Indiana Grand Prix. Time to dive into the paddock pass right now. This segment brought to you by Factory Karts. Made in the USA. It's not just a statement, it's the mission at Factory Karts of America. Led by four-time Super National champion Billy Musgrave, Factory Karts manufactures their frames completely in-house at the Riverside, California facility. Built and designed from the ground up specifically for the American karting market, Factory Karts brings new innovations and solutions that are long overdue. No other karting manufacturer stands behind its product as Factory Karts does, providing a 2-year warranty on all their frames. Learn more by visiting factorykarts.com or email Billy anytime at info@factorykarts.com. All right, David, let's jump into the paddock pass. A bunch of stuff going on. Let's just begin with we talk about the fact that Newcastle, kind of one of the spiritual homes of this series. It's been the USPKS has been coming to Newcastle, I think, probably since the beginning, and surprisingly, probably the biggest ever event that USPKS has had at the track.
It is, yeah. It was the largest event that they have had at the Newcastle Motorsports Park. It was the first time, I believe, they had it in the month of June. So typically it was either in May as a second event or the end as the championship finale. So it was unique to be there in the month of June and for it to be kind of like the midway point of the season. So, a lot of people are familiar with the racetrack, obviously going in the national layout in the normal direction. Everybody's very familiar with it. The logistics of everything goes together really good. Mike Adams has his track staff working, in sync with the USPKS. So everything seemed to go off without a hitch in terms of, logistics and the way everything sorted out for the event. But yeah, just a big, it'd be a big number with 287 entries. Making it the largest event of all time at Newcastle for USPKS.
If you follow along with David's Paddock Insider, the segment that we put together during Friday's action at the track, number of these obviously nuggets coming out there as well. But David, one of the ones I thought was interesting because it actually brought some more to our forefront than I even knew about in the outlap, because I talked about one driver being on a different chassis. Then when you got there, we found out exactly where they were. Let's talk about the fact that silly season is kind of underway. Midway through, almost into the month of July. You'd say, hey, it's only the early summer, but we've all been racing since the first week of January, so we're over halfway through the season, considering the fact that we're pretty much wrapped up in the middle of November this year. But there are drivers that are making some moves, moving over to some different tents, trying some different material. So tell us what you know.
Yeah, one of them we knew going in was Alessandro Di Tullio moving to International Motorsports. You mentioned that he announced that on social media just after the Utah weekend for the SCUSA Pro Tour. Was on the Kart Republic all weekend long under the International Motorsports team. They actually have been utilizing the Kart Republic for the single speed categories, Lenzo Kart for the shifter division. So kind of a multi-brand race team. With International Motorsports out of Florida. The other in X30 Pro was Caleb Gaffera in the senior rookie, making the move from Trinity Karting Group and Kart Republic over to Mike Doty Racing and the LN Racing Kart. So that was a kind of a reunion with him in OTK Products, something that he won on a bunch of times last year as a junior driver. So kind of a new but not new for Caleb. Working with the Mike Doty Racing crew and Brandon Jarzakrak Racing as well, but put him alongside Paulie Massimino. So it was kind of a good combination. Those two have known each other for a long time. So it was good to kind of see those two kind of work together along with Doty and Jarzakrak. And then you go to the cadet side of things. You had two drivers actually joining the Trinity Karting Group tent this weekend with the Kart Republic. It was Jackson Gibson that announced it prior to the event on social media. Moving over from Rollison Performance Group, but Jackson Porter also jumping over to Trinity Karting Group for the USPKS Newcastle weekend. It was actually his first visit to Newcastle and then a first weekend on the Kart Republic chassis for both of them.
Interesting. Did you talk to Porters? Is this just a one-off event for USPKS? Did we know that he is obviously working with the guys at Factory Kart?
Yeah, it's not known yet at this time. Obviously, there was no factory carts at the event, so helped make that transition, but nothing's confirmed yet as to the rest of the season.
We'll dig in on that. One of the things we've looked over through the last couple of weeks and through the month of June, David, has been this expansion of the pro shifter field. A really good run at the Pro Tour event, SCUSA Pro Tour event out at Utah. A bunch of great drivers. Same goes, as you said, a solid field in the pro shifter class at the USPKS race. Not only with drivers and some new additional drivers coming in, but the diversity of the manufacturers is something that we're really looking at as well. Not just chassis manufacturers now either. We got a bunch of different engine players in the game now. Yeah,
that was the point. Both chassis and engine manufacturers are expanding the field, and pro shifter, as we talked about, moved up to 20 entries on the weekend. So the largest of the 2023 season in its series debut. GFC was kind of the focal point of the article, coming over and making their USPKS debut, along with the IAME KZ engine power plant as well. So that was kind of the forefront of that article, kind of highlighting that addition to the field this year, as we've seen, PSL Karting and Burrell Art with the TM motors. We've seen Magic Kart with the TM motors. We've seen Rollison Performance Group with Danny Formal aboard the OTK chassis and the Vortex engine. And so now we've added a third engine manufacturer to the mix, along with another chassis brand fighting for victories. Yeah, just another layer, I think, right, of storylines throughout the pro shifter category. Different chassis manufacturers, different teams, and the different engine manufacturers all coming to the forefront as well. David, what else you got? Anything to cap things off here for Paddock Pass? Yeah, something we weren't able to hit on during the week prior to the USPKS weekend, but was able to speak to Harley Keeble directly about him and Thierry Germanovich going to Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course and taking part in the Dart Kart Club road racing event. Really? They were there to support their Low Key Racing, I believe, is the name of the dealer, Sodi Kart dealer that competes in the road racing side of things. So Harley Keeble actually prepared for Newcastle by going 95 miles an hour down the long back straightaway at Mid-Ohio in his KA100 Sodi Kart. That's awesome. I love it. What did he think? So Keeble was able to pick up the victory both days. He and Chad Dawkin going battling it out for the victory both days, as they were able to draft away from the rest of the field. Keeble just kind of took the old guy to school and was able to edge him out at the line both days. He said it was fun, but extremely dangerous, and probably would never do it again. Well, listen, it's something you're brand new. If you haven't done it before, it's obviously a wild thing, and no doubt about it. Well, that's good. Good to see Harley getting out there. That's kind of cool. I love it. Yeah, and provide a Sodi Kart dealer with the opportunity to work with a factory driver such as Harley, and get his view take on chassis setups. And so it was a good business weekend for Sodi Racing USA. But like I said, I don't think you'll see Keeble racing Daytona Kart Week in the road racing division. All right, good to know. All right, folks, on to another commercial break. When we come back, it's time to dive into the race report. We're going to come back with X30 Pro, KA100 Senior, and Pro Shifter. Winning takes a team, and Northern California karters can take advantage of one of the best, working with the Karting Collective based at Sonoma Raceway. The Karting Collective is a full-service kart shop and a longtime official Sodi Kart dealer, founded by karting and racing veteran Nick LeDuc. Nick's decades of experience brings the knowledge needed to reach the podium, with a focus on attention to detail and providing a fun culture within the race team. A whole host of services are available with the Karting Collective, including trackside support, chassis setup, and driver coaching, as well as kart storage, kart service, and repair. Arrive and drive opportunities are also available. Visit thekartingcollective.com or call 415-328-1112. You can find them on social media as well, and make sure to give them a follow. Make the most out of every lap with a perfectly prepped kart from the Karting Collective.
History, success, family. Those are the three words that can describe Comet Kart Sales, one of the longest tenured karting businesses in the United States. The family-owned operation located just outside of Indianapolis has provided karts, parts, and services for thousands of racers in the near 6 decades of business. Their online store features everything you need, continually adding new parts to their product line. From full karting packages, new engines, spare or replacement parts, and safety gear, find it all at CometKartSales.com. Their Comet Racing Engine service has won multiple major events and championships over decades of karting and continues to offer the best trackside service in the industry, specializing in IAME X30, IAME Swift, and other 2-cycle power plants. Make sure to head to CometKartSales.com or call them at 317-462-3413 to be part of the Comet Kart Sales family today. Welcome back to the EKN Debrief, episode number 114, as we're diving into the USPKS event at Newcastle Motorsports Park this past weekend. It is June the 27th here, so the last weekend was the midway point of a 5-stop USPKS program for 2023. Diving now into the race report presented today by Sodi Racing USA. It's a multi-time world champion, and it's a SCUSA Super Nationals winner. It is Sodi Kart. And starting in 2023, the Sodi brand has found a new home here in the United States. Sodi Racing USA is the new exclusive importer of the Sodi Kart chassis line under the karting distribution banner. The French manufacturer Sodi Kart is a leader within the karting industry, offering a wide range of products and services. The Sodi Racing chassis line offers product in classes from mini karts to KZ, all based on years of development and championship seasons around the world. Visit Sodi-Racing-USA.com to learn more about the Sodi Kart chassis or call 954-634-5111 to become part of the Sodi Racing USA network today. Sodi Kart, the world leader in the karting industry. All right, David, we'll dial things in. I was at the SCUSA race, so you played quarterback. I'll play quarterback now. You're going to run with the ball. X30 Pro by Franklin Motorsports. Here is the headlines. We're into the race report. Garrison claims first since 2019.
This was probably, you were in Utah. I wasn't there. I didn't get to see it firsthand, but I would say this was probably one of the greatest weekends for X30 Pro of the season. Just the amount of competitiveness throughout the field and at the front all weekend long just made for, you didn't know who was going to be able to come out on top. Nice. The weekend started. Diego Ramos aboard the PSL karting. Burrell Art was the quickest in qualifying, was able to edge out Elio Meza and Blake Nash, who was impressive in qualifying to be able to be the top 3 drivers in that session at the end of Friday. However, heat races came, and it was 3 different drivers taking the race wins. It was Ramos in the first heat, Aiden Ingrata coming up from the 13th spot to win heat number 2, which was an exciting and kind of crazy race. We saw a number of drivers making contact. So it was probably the more chaotic race that we saw on Saturday. Everything kind of settled down a little bit more in heat 3 as Braden Eves powered his way aboard the MPG Kart Republic to the front, starting in 6th spot. So a lot of shuffling throughout the day on Situation Saturday with three heat races for sure. That set up Diego Ramos holding on to the top spot for the pole position for the main event with 3 top 5 finishes. So consistency, again, a big player and a major part of your success here at the United States Pro Kart Series. Eves allows alongside on the outside of front row. Paulie Massimino and Aiden Ingrata on the second row with Ryan Norberg and Joe Turney, the Speed Sports winner, on row 3. The main event started out with a wild couple of opening laps, including contact between Eves and Norberg. They came through turn 1. Norberg made the move. Eves held the outside line. As he did, tried to run the rumble strips all the way to its end and made that little bump there, trying to come back onto the actual pavement itself. Made contact with Norberg. They kind of went up in the air. That bent the whole front end for Eves, taking him out of the race. But all that contact and shuffling allowed Joe Turney to kind of get out and get away from the rest of the field with a lead. So you would think Well, he did the same thing at Speed Sports.
Right.
He's going to
He's
do
gone.
the same thing again. Not this time. Austin Garrison just a tick quicker than what Turney was able to put down in the main event in terms of pace. Garrison was able to run him down, make the move, and then from there just drove away to a 2.3 margin of victory for his first victory, as we said, since 2019 at the United States Pro Kart Series.
Couple of things I thought was interesting. I saw the interview with Garrison, and he had said that the kart just kept getting better. Like it literally was just, he was dropping a couple of tenths of a second near the end of the run, which is obviously exactly what you want. And then what I thought was interesting, any time you're leading a race like that, you're obviously coming to the end. And I love the fact when he came down the line, I think he was coming down to essentially get the white flag and looked over his shoulder and realized that the guys were battling behind him, right? He had Norberg and Ramos, all those guys in the middle of the scrap behind him. And I think kind of probably take a little bit of a breath of air, knowing that, hey, they're going to fight for second. I'm probably going to be able to cruise to the end for this. So 2.3 seconds to win for Garrison. That, like the headline said, David, first big win since 2019. That's awesome for Austin.
Well, first win. I think he's won something already. I think he was at the SCUSA Winter Series win, but this is his first USPKS win since 2019 when he was on what chassis? Can you remember?
2019?
Yeah.
Man, I want to say a Cosmic.
CRG.
On the CRG. Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
He actually split the wins that weekend. He and, I had the name in my head and I can't.
Come on, David.
Oh my gosh. Former OGP driver. He was actually on a TB kart that weekend.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. Very long name. Come on.
I'll give you a second. Hard Charger was Isidoro.
Hollingshead. There we go.
Zach Hollingshead?
Yeah. So they split the wins that weekend. Yep.
Wow. Interesting. All right. Hard Charger, Isidoro Vazzaro on the Kart Republic, up 20 spots. Well done. 31st up to 11th. But the bottom line is you talked about Garrison getting the win. Wrap it up with the battle for the final positions of the top five, because the last lap was pretty hectic.
Yeah, Norberg slipped down outside the top five there after that contact, but he's able to fight his way forward and able to get ahead of Diego Ramos. Joe Turney just slipped back into the 4th spot, just not able to keep pace, as we said, with Garrison. And then Harley Keeble able to slip up into the 5th spot. And as you said, Garrison ran his quickest lap on lap 16. And then, as you said, looked behind him, saw he had a gap. And nice. the last 2 laps were a tick off of what he had just ran before. Norberg, however, did have fast lap of the race. So, and that was lap 14 as he was trying to catch up to this group up front.
I did see a bunch. Obviously, one of the things that Kart Chaser was showing, David, was the guys in the the scale line, and I saw that Norberg had got a white slip for something after the main event. Was there a penalty there? Was it any idea?
There was a penalty and later overturned,
right.
I believe, for contact with Paulie Massimino, I believe it was.
Okay.
I didn't see the situation. I'm not sure. It says lap 6, turn 1, but what I saw is Norberg made a pass and Massimino just kind of screwed up on the trying to slide in behind him. So,
okay. Yeah.
So yeah, not really sure. When the penalty was called, I was like, that's not really a penalty, but so they overturned it.
Right.
I don't know how that all worked out, but yeah, so he was going to be docked 3 possessions, which would have taken him off the 2nd spot, knocked him down to 5th, but kept him in 2nd.
All right. Remember, single event, main event format at USPKS. So there you go. Done for X30 Pro, brought to you by Franklin Motorsports, one of the one main events. For KA 100 Senior, presented by Mike Doty Racing. Here's the headline. Shipman pulls out first victory with last lap move.
KA 100, as we talked about, had 51 drivers. They still ran the A, B, C, D heat format. So we had multiple heat races throughout the day on Saturday, but then they blended them all back together for the main event, that one single main event on Sunday. Austin Gers was the top driver in qualifying, laid down a really solid lap in that session with championship contender Peyton Phillips there in 2nd, and then Connor Ferris in the 3rd spot. Then we got into the heat races. Gers won 2 of his 3 heat races. Unfortunately, in the 2nd heat race, contact between he and Aiden Rudolph dropped them to the tail of the field and took away a possible win by either driver, which was an early contact. So again, just early contact and not helping those two drivers. Braden Eves scored 2 victories in the heat races. He won the second and third heat in the heat flights, while Connor Ferris won 2 heats of his own, winning one of the first heats and then one of the second heat races. So pretty solid, viewpoint in terms of, okay, these are 3 top drivers who are going to be towards the front. Yep. Unfortunately for Gers, he had that near DNF or finish towards the back. Oh, I got to get my papers in the right order. He started in the main event from the 15th position, so that 26th finish along with the 2 heat wins did not really help him in terms of trying to compete for victory. But Braden Eves, as we said, 2 wins can put him on the pole position alongside Connor Ferris with his 2 wins. Elio Meza and John Burke in row 2, Cooper Shipman and Peyton Phillips in row 3. Ended up being a 4-driver breakaway that included Eves, Ferris, Mick Gabriel coming up from the 7th spot, and John Burke up at the front of the field. A last lap battle. Basically, they're kind of riding together, not really fighting too hard, but able to keep a gap on the rest of the field. And we knew it would come down to the last lap. Well, the last white flag was waving. And Connor Ferris, sitting there in second behind Braden Eves, went for it in turn 1. They went side by side. And again, very similar to what we saw in X30, but this race was actually before that. So Eves held the outside line, tried to go as deep as he possibly could from the outside to kind of ruffle up Ferris a little bit, who was sitting there on the inside. Well, as they slowed their pace through turn 1, Cooper Shipman was sitting there right in there in third, went 3 wide on the exit and dove into, got to the apex of turn 2 before they came away with the lead. And that was the winning move for Cooper Shipman, as he was able to cruise away to the race win and pick up his first USPKS victory.
Yeah, so in the end, Ferris comes home in second. If I'm not mistaken, because I think I saw something. Did Eves? Was he out afterwards? Did he not make the finish again? Or
so as they made their way through turn 3, turn 4, down to turn 5, Gabriel made a move on Eves, who I believe they were now just sitting 3rd and 4th. So Eves was sitting, I believe, 3rd now, and Gabriel made a move. The two kind of went off track a little bit.
I did see
really
that.
hurt.
Yeah.
It really hurt Eves, is what it
Eves.
was. Yeah. And he continued to slip back, and he actually ended up finishing in 7th because the second group came up forward, which included Burke, Gers, and Harley Keeble. Gabriel was penalized at the scale line, but that call was overturned. So he retained the 4 spot with John Burke moving up into the 3rd position aboard the CRG, while Austin Gers ended up finishing in 5th. So a good drive from 15th to 10th, or from 15th to 5th. But again, looking at the top 5, that's, and top 5 is 5 different chassis brands. So a very diverse front of the field at the end of the day.
And let's look at the hard charger. James Overbeck started all the way back in 50th, David, essentially the tail of the field. 50th, drove up to 18th, 32 spots forward for James Overbeck. That's a lot of passing through a main event.
Yeah, I think it was an engine change that put him at the back of
really?
the field, because he was actually slated to start 23rd. So I think that's an engine change, which put him at the back of the field.
Okay. Let's move to the Pro Shifter category presented by SRP Engines. Here's your headline. Wick picks up first USPKS for GFC and IAME.
Yeah, should be picks up first win. USPKS win. Sorry, forgot that.
All right. Listen,
basically, yeah. Well, you gotta proofread it when you read it, buddy. Come on now.
Listen, I'm juggling time here.
It was basically
2-hour window.
It was basically a 2-driver battle all weekend long between Kyle Wick and AJ Myers. Myers coming off the victory at Speed Sports, while Wick coming off the 2 runner-up finishes in Utah. So both had some pretty good momentum, and both had very much the most speed out of anybody in the field throughout the weekend. Nobody else finished first or second aside from Wick and Myers. Wow, okay. Wick ended up getting the edge in qualifying over Myers. I think it was almost by 0.3 of a second. Just an amazing lap for Wick to be able to put down at the end of the day on Friday, when the track is not at its best, but they were able to kind of pinpoint the right setup for that day. Heat races ended up being AJ Myers picking up 2 of the wins, while Kyle Wick picked up the second heat race win. So it still kept them on the front row, but this time Myers starting on the inside of the front row for the main event. And it was a great hole shot. It was really more so the positioning of himself going into turn 2, as Wick was kind of left to the outside in the marbles a little bit, got kind of slowed his pace to where Myers probably had about at least a 10 to 12 cart length lead by the end of the first lap. So maybe about, half a second that he had over Wick. But eventually Wick was able to kind of settle himself back down, get the cart handling the right way, and was able to kind of just reel in Myers lap by lap, and eventually took the lead on lap 13 out of the 18 laps. And from there, drove away to a near 1 second margin of victory for his first victory. And of course, the first victory for GFC karting in the category.
Yeah, that's pretty big for sure. Same with Miami and the engines as well, getting that victory. Big one for Wick. 0.940 was the gap between first and second over AJ Myers. Behind them, Jacob Gulick coming off that win at the SCUSA Pro Tour race in Utah. David, was he still pretty much in the hunt? Every time I saw you posting stuff to Facebook and Twitter, I could see Gulick in the top 10, top 5. Seems like he was still a player throughout the weekend.
Yeah, battled some gremlins in the heat races. Only had the best finish of third in one of them. But was able to put together everything in the main event. It looked like Pickett was going to be able to pull off that third place finish, but Gulick was able to get him towards the end of the race. And then they had Talon Yockel right there battling with both of them. So a good battle at the end of the race between those 3 drivers for the third spot on the podium. So again, GFC, Magic Kart, Burrell Art, among the leaders in terms of the shifter ranks, and then you add in Danny Formal on the OTK Cosmic. Good diverse field in the pro shifter division.
Just a quick little question. Marian Kremer's third in qualifying, third in the opening heat races. That's all I see of him in the rest of your report notes here. What was anything off for Kremer's on the weekend, or did they have some issues, or what?
Just no pace. That is one thing. Pickett was actually using a Swede Tech R1 engine, while the other Burrell Art PSL drivers were using the TMR2 engine. Okay. So a little bit of difference in engine, but Pickett said also the chassis was handling a lot better than what it's been in the rest of the season. Kremer's just struggling for pace right now. Ended up finishing 7th in the main event. I think he was up to 3rd at the start. Was good on cold tires. Got up to 5th actually, but ended up dropping down to the 7th spot behind I can never say his name.
I don't have it in front of me, so I can't tell you. Oh,
Giorgio.
Giorgio.
There we go.
All right, folks. Hard charger in the pro shifter category. Jake Donald on the Kart Republic, up 4 spots from 15th to 11th, almost into the top 10. But that was it in terms of advancement in the field of 20, up to 4 spots. After this break, we get back. We're going to keep rolling with this race report, which is brought to you today by Sodi Racing USA. We'll have a look at X30 Junior, KA100 Junior, and KA100 Master. More to come on this edition of the Debrief.
Are you a club racer looking for that next challenge? Or a driver searching for more racing? Look no further than the leading karting series in the Midwest. The Route 66 Sprint Series is focused on providing a fun, family atmosphere while also offering a perfect stepping stone for those at a club level looking to take their racing to the next level. With 9 different classes, the Route 66 Sprint Series has racing for all ages, utilizing IAME and Briggs & Stratton engines, including the new for 2023 Championship Point Scoring Kid Kart category. The 4-event Route 66 Sprint Series calendar has stops at some of the Midwest's finest karting facilities, kicking off the season at Newcastle Motorsports Park on May 19th through the 21st, with additional events at Road America in July, the newly renovated Whiteland Raceway Park in August, and the championship finale at Millwright Raceway, the home of Badger Kart Club, in September. Whether you're trying to make the step up to regional racing or a seasoned pro of the sport, the Route 66 Sprint Series is right for you. For more information, go to Route66kartracing.com and find us on social media at Route 66 Sprint Series.
Fast, fair, and fun. Ignite Karting offers you all of that at an affordable price. Ignite Karting utilizes the spec Margay Ignite K3 with a Briggs & Stratton 206 engine and a Hoosier R80 tire. Everyone in the junior, senior, and masters classes compete on the same Ignite K3 chassis, which puts all the emphasis squarely on driver development. Additionally, Ignite Karting is accessible at the local, regional, and national level. Special events for the 2023 season include the Ignite Majors, which begins with the annual trip to the Daytona International Speedway as part of the WKA Daytona Kart Week as part of both the sprint and road racing events. Those in the Midwest can enjoy the regionally based Ignite Challenge, which just finished up a record-setting season in 2022. Local club programs have also been established in other states all across the country, from Idaho to Texas, Nebraska to New York, with more tracks and clubs joining the Ignite Karting program. Be part of fast fun and great memories with Margay Racing at an Ignite track near you. All information on Ignite events and Ignite Kart packages, including dealers in your area, are available at ignitekarting.com. Get off the couch and out onto the track in 2023. Ignite Karting. Fuel your passion. Welcome back to the EKN Debrief, episode 114. It's June the 27th, and David Cole's taking us on an inside run through the USPKS Indiana Grand Prix that took place last weekend at Newcastle Motorsports Park, halfway point through the USPKS 2023 season. Into the race report here now. We've got 3 more categories to talk about. This race report brought to you by Sodi Racing USA. David, let's go to X30 Junior, presented by Rawlson Performance Group. Here is the headline: Rivera extends streak to 3.
It was not the performance we're used to seeing on Rivera as he walked away for victories in the opening 2 rounds at United States Pro Kart Series. This time, it was a battle, and it was a multi-driver battle. It was not just Rivera. It included top qualifier Anthony Martella with Speed Concept Racing, along with Stephen Miller for Chad Dawkin Racing aboard the Kart Republic. Miller, however, didn't show his hand until the main event, as it was Rivera and Martella picking up wins in the heat races. Rivera picking up 2, Martella picking up 1. Miller only had a best finish of runner-up in the heat races as he finished 7th and 6th, but still put him 4th on the main event on the main event grid behind Rivera, Martella, and Jackson Wolney, filling out the front 4 spots in the main event grid. So as the green flag waved and the early laps completed, it was the top 3 of Rivera, Martella, and Miller that were able to get away from the rest of the field, as there was a big group battling for that 4th position. Up front, back and forth, a couple of lead changes, but eventually Rivera showed his hand, had just a little bit more pace than Martella and Miller did, and was able to keep a 1.2 margin ahead of them at the checkered flag to record his 3rd victory of the season.
Interestingly, David, 1.2 seconds was the margin. I'll say this. Obviously, we know that Ernesto Rivera is really showing the way here. He's been so impressive out of the gate. Anthony Martella, I think, coming on big time to the middle of the season as well. He showed well in Utah and then here at Newcastle Motorsports Park. So really dialing things in the red speed with Speed Concepts Racing. Miller, Weldon, and Burnett, top 5. Hard charger Alexander Vanchev on the LN Racing Kart, a 14-spot improvement, 23rd up to 9th. That's a solid run in a field like this.
Yeah, solid run, but there was a lot of shuffling, and if you look at the results as well, a lot of bumper penalties.
Really?
We had 4 drivers with 6-second bumper penalties,
Ooh.
And then we had 3 more with 3-second bumper penalties. So that could be part of the reason for the multiple spots earned for Vanchev in the race. I did not look at the lap chart here, but yeah, it was. I don't know. It didn't seem like it was that rough of a race, but again, pushback bumpers, they just happen, and then they can't get them overturned, or they've already had one overturned, so they can't do it again. But yeah, it wasn't that rough of a race looking at it from my vantage point.
Okay. Still a lot of pushbacks. It's a lot of contact.
It is still a lot of pushbacks.
That means aggressive contact, right? Even though, I'm just saying, it's just, again, people talk about the why we have the pushbacks. If we can do a race where nobody gets any pushbacks, then we can talk about not having pushbacks anymore. But when you get a whole host,
accordion effects happen, and if they've already used their video review,
now remind people of that rule, David.
Well, I can't remember it exactly off the top of my head, but I believe if you do a video review and it is not overturned, you're not allowed to submit another video review for a pushback bumper. I know, who was it? I think it was Aiden Ingrata, who nearly had a review every race, but had him overturned because of just the way things unfolded. So, again, I did not look back that far back into the field in terms of bumpers. I know the top 5 or 6 did not have any in this category.
Okay.
So it was all mid pack and back.
All right. Good to know. All right. Moving on to the KA100 junior class presented by BBS Racing Engines. The headline, Weldon earns first following post-race penalties. David, you're going to walk us through this qualifying, all the heat races. Obviously, it all came down to the last lap, which was a wild one for sure. But again, Weldon earns first following post-race penalties. How did it all play out?
Yeah, it all came down to the scale line, basically.
Okay, all right.
It was finalized at the scale the scale line and afterwards as well. But it was a wild weekend with a lot of different drivers showing speed and performing well, but not being consistent. Again, that's always going to be one of the key factors, I think, in the USBKS, especially with this format, is being consistent, not only on the year, but throughout the weekend as well. Top qualifier was,
Fernando
Luque, as he was able to best Austin Olds. I think it was maybe 1,000th of a second. It was a really close qualifying session. And again, doing the 5-lap session, a lot of drivers were partnering up and getting some draft things, but again, it wasn't like the whole, I'm going to stall for 4 laps and try and nail a fast one. It was, just try and find a good partner and run with them throughout the session. So it was a unique qualifying session, especially for Newcastle, trying to go 5 laps.
Yeah.
In the heat races, again, split up because of the larger field. So we had the A, B, C, and D flights. Sebastian Garzone picked up the first heat win along with Stephen Miller. And then it was Oliver Weldon, who actually had a terrible qualifying session, ended up 29th overall, but fought his way forward to actually win in heat 2, along with Trevor Brown, who had 2 bad heat races. So the win helped him, but he still started the main event in 28th after qualifying 12th. So we had some drivers fight their way forward in heat 2, and I'm going to say there were probably some pushback bumper penalties in that race as well. Stephen Miller, the only driver to pick up 2 heat wins in this category, along with Ernesto Rivera, the 2-time race winner coming into the weekend, actually not getting up to the front of the field until the end of Saturday. So it set the grids like this with Sebastian Garzone and Caleb Tartar, a junior rookie, starting on the outside of the front row, racing with MPG Motorsport on a Kart Republic. Peyton Westcott, who we've seen continue to be consistent. She had 3 top 5 finishes. So she started from inside of row 2 alongside Austin Olds, with Stephen Miller and Diego Giat in the outside the 3rd row. Rivera started 7th. He was able to make his way towards the front along with Stephen Miller and Austin Olds, as they were the top 3 drivers to run away at the early part of the race, as it was a hectic race behind them, with drivers fighting for the 4th position. Eventually, Oliver Weldon, who I said started back in, 9th position, got his way towards the front of that group and then was able to run away from them while also running down the top 3 toward the end of the race. So as we set up for that last lap, it ended up being a 4-driver pack getting the white flag. Well, last lap, KA100 Racing, what do you expect is going to happen, Rob?
Yeah,
they're going to run the defensive line.
Yeah, of course they are.
So Stephen Miller did exactly that. throughout the entire lap, he had Austin Olds basically on his bumper the entire way, trying to give him just a little bit of a love tap to maybe move him out of the way or set his cart off in the outside direction through a corner. Didn't happen though, as they went through I-70. And then it was everybody for themselves. Olds tried to make a run on the inside. Unfortunately, he got kind of, I don't know if it was moved or just avoided contact with Miller and went off into the grass at the kink section coming to the flag. That obviously slowed Olds' pace, and so he kind of slipped back into fourth as Weldon now became the driver on the charge as he got a great run out of I-70. So he moved to the inside, and where I was standing, I couldn't tell what was going on. I wish there was a head-on camera view of it, but there wasn't exactly that. But what happened was Weldon went to the inside. Miller started swerving, according to officials, towards Weldon as Rivera darted around to the outside. So essentially it was a 3-wide finish at the line. Miller got there first. Weldon basically crossed the line in the grass for second, with Rivera on the outside in the third position. And when they got to the scale line, race director Blake Hunt was right there, handed Stephen Miller the penalty for swerving and said, we cannot have that happen ever again. Wow. So I didn't see the actual move, but was told he looked at him and drove the cart directly towards Weldon as they were coming to the checkered flag. Both Porter and Blake, who were standing at the line, had to move in case they were worried about getting hit because of the aggressive move by Miller. Wow. So Miller received a disqualification for the swerving coming to the checkered flag, thus promoting Weldon to the top spot of the podium for his first junior victory at the series.
Wow. Rivera, we talked about the fact that Rivera was there and this was Olds. Rivera ends up going to second, Olds into third. Caleb Tartar coming home in the fourth spot, and Isaac Malkin, who was kind of a factor throughout the entire weekend, ends up in the fifth position. So good run overall. Some, as David said, aggressive racing. Hard Charger up 23 spots from 47th up to 24th after finishing P3 in the LCQ to make the main event. Antoine Lemieux in the Tony Kart ends up running his way up into the top 25. 24th place finish for Lemieux after coming through the LCQ. Solid run there as well.
Yeah, and again, Rivera was only a thousandth of a second off Weldon, so nearly picked up the victory. So his actual win streak ended by 1,000th of a second, technically, when you look at the results. Yeah. But yeah, Tartar and Malkut, they're making their junior debut at USPKS, at least in this category. We're in the hunt all weekend long. Yeah. You know, Tartar had 3 top 4 finishes. Malkut had 2 runner-up finishes, but a 13th in the opening heat. But he was a factor all weekend long as well, too. So, and there's something about Newcastle. Those two love Newcastle.
They do. They do. Right.
You know, as we look back at the cadet days.
Yep. Yeah. How many times we talked about both those drivers in the cadet races at Newcastle for sure. Yeah. All right, let's go. Okay, you got one more note?
Yeah, I was going to say, just an impressive weekend by Olds. Kept his nose clean, didn't make any mistakes. Just unfortunately, just the way the run to the checkered flag just did not work in his favor. So, but overall, a good weekend for him.
Nice. Let's go to KA 100 Masters to cap off this segment. Then we'll come back, of course, with Mini and Micro. KA 100 Masters presented by Speed Concepts Racing. Here is the headline: dominating win for Mardan.
Yeah, Mardan was just, it just seemed like he had a little bit more than everybody else on the weekend. The only blemish he had was heat 1. Ended up setting fast time in qualifying, got a good draft in his lap. And so he was able to edge out Mike Rollison for the top spot in qualifying. But it ended up being Adam Kreppen, who we saw at Speed Sports do really well and be among the contenders all weekend long, but just came up short. In Texas, he ended up winning the opening heat race, but Mardan came back to win the final. Excuse me, the final 2 on.
Get some water, man.
My voice is not ready. It's been what, 6 weeks since I had to talk a lot.
It's been a while. True, that's it.
Yeah, so Mardan ended up finishing the last two races on Saturday, setting up for him on the pole position once again for the main event alongside Kreppen, who filled out the front row. And those two were able to break away from the rest of the field early on. It looked like Kreppen was just kind of setting his pace, kind of playing it out, waiting for his moment. But all of a sudden, he just lost pace. Like, just something in the cart did not agree with the conditions at the time. And so he eventually lost the draft from Mardan, and then was eventually taken over by both Mike Rollison, and then Mario Barrios ended up fighting him for position as well too. We'll get into that later. So Mardan was out front all by himself, and as Rollison moved into the second spot, he began slowly creeping in on Mardan, but he was there in the final lap, but just didn't have quite enough for him to make a move on Mardan as he went uncontested to the checkered flag for his first victory of the season.
Wire to wire. That's big. Nicely done.
Again, he's good at Newcastle as well too. Anytime you see Mardan at Newcastle, you gotta factor him as a contender for sure.
Sure enough, yeah. Mardan on the Technocart for Technocart USA. Rollison, Barrios, Miguel Mir, and Nicky Coelho rounding out the top 5. Martin Stone, the hard charger, up 5 spots, started outside the top 12, worked his way up into 7th. David, anything to cap off with Masters before we go to another break?
Yeah, Kreppen down to the 6th spot, just again, couldn't have the pace, and then wasn't able to fight off Barrios, Mir, and Coelho. Coelho actually was, I think, into the 3rd spot at one time, but drove off track and lost a couple spots. But overall, again, almost 5 different chassis brands in this one, as we had 2 Cosmics in there.
Another quick break, folks. When we get back, we'll wrap up the race report brought to you by Sodi Racing USA. We'll dive into Mini Swift and Micro Swift. Top-level production with a focus on a single form of motorsport, karting. This is MG Tires. MG Tires USA, underneath the Vantage Karting Group banner, is the official distributor of the MG Tires brand for the United States. MG Tires are the official spec tire in the US Pro Kart Series, Route 66 Sprint Series, Sunshine State Karting Challenge, and countless clubs across the country. No matter your compound preference, MG Tires USA has you covered. Whether it's the medium SH Red or the soft SM Yellow that you find at many karting events in the US, or the super soft green SS and the intermediate white IZ optional compounds, MG Tires USA has your winning set of rubber in stock. Indoor and outdoor rental facilities can now trust MG Tires with their solution to long-lasting and the best performance with 3 different compounds available through the RL line. For more info about MG Tires USA and its extensive list of dealers near you, check out their website at mgtiresusa.com. MG Tires, for the drivers.
Hey there, my name is Dion Von Moltke, and I grew up karting and was fortunate enough to one day achieve my dream of becoming a professional race car driver. Looking back at my career, the most fun I had was in karting, but it was also one of the most challenging times in my career too. I often found myself craving expert guidance from someone who had been there before, that had done it and knew the right path forward, but it just wasn't available. And that's why I created Blaze Coaching. It's a platform designed to ensure every driver has the chance to learn from the best, from those who have faced the challenges and know what it takes to become a champion in our sport. Just imagine being coached by 2023 Indy 500 winner Joseph Newgarden, or Indy 500 front-wheel qualifier Spencer Pigot, or how about Acura factory driver Ricky Taylor. They're all here as coaches on Blaze, ready to help you along your path. It's designed to meet you where you are, so no matter what your experience level is, where you race, or what your goals are, your Blaze coach is there to help. Are you ready to unlock your potential? Visit blaze.io/karting today. That's BLAYZE.io/karting.
Back here on the EKN Radio Network with episode 114 of the Debrief Race Report podcast. We're talking about the USPKS event, round number 3, the Indiana Grand Prix. Here in late June at Newcastle Motorsports Park. David Cole was of course, trackside. We'll cap things off right now with the race report brought to you by Sodi Racing USA. We'll move into the Mini Swift class presented by D&J Intermodal Services, the headline, Tire Selection hands McGoy first USPKS triumph. All right, Dave, tell me more about this. You kind of alluded to it in the preview. What happened with the Mini Swift main?
Yeah, again, the Mini Swift main was the only one affected by the weather, with the rain shower that we did have come through and the little lightning delay that we had. The warmer temperatures certainly dried up the track, I think, quicker than everybody expected, with only I think maybe 12 drivers we had on the track for the one LCQ that was run prior to the main event. But to set up to the main event, we had Tristan Murphy setting fast time in qualifying over Jackson Tovo. But it was actually Travis Pettit and Marco Romero picking up wins in the heat races. As we said, was a kind of a wild weekend in the Mini Swift category with a number of drivers in contention. Pettit won the first race over McGoy with Romero in third, but then Romero ended up winning the other two heat races over Royce Vega and Tristan Murphy. That set up for Romero and Tristan Murphy on the front row, and then Michael McGoy and Travis Pettit in row 2, along with Royce Vega and William Kim rounding out the third row. And so the first main event on the racetrack was Mini Swift. So as they were doing the national anthem, drivers and mechanics are on the grid, changing tires, deciding if they go dry or wet. Walking down the grid, the dry tires ended up being the more popular selection. However, the front row of Romero and Murphy were on rain tires. Then you had McGoy and Travis Pettit in row 2 on dry tires. And then Royce Vega sitting 5th on rain tires. So it was kind of a mix up front, but I think pretty much everybody back there elected to go with the dry tires, because I started writing dry tires down first. I don't have my paper in front of me because I thought that was going to be the lower selection, but I think it ended up being the majority selection by a number of the drivers on the field. So what would we have? 44, I think, drivers we said were in the field.
Something like that. Yeah. 44 total. Yep.
44. Yeah. So I'm going to say it was maybe about half then went dry and the other half went wet. But a lot of the drivers up front selected the dry. Well, the race went green, and for the most part, the field did an amazing job. Everybody keeping it on the racetrack. A couple drivers off here and there, but nothing too significant, nothing crazy. But the rain tires were certainly a selection. And Rob, you can relate to this in my Masters race at Cup Karts North America, where the first couple opening laps, rain tires were great. But after that, what happens? You fall down the order.
That's it.
They're garbage. That's exactly it. So,
David, isn't it crazy that that's back-to-back national events that happened to Mini Swift? Where some guys, because that's the same thing with the Scusa race. Some guys were on dries, some guys were on wets. Palacio stayed with the wets. He gets the win. McGoy went dries in Utah, and he went dries as well again. This time it paid off. Last time it did not. So wow, it's gutsy move to a certain extent to be he and Pettit being the front guys, the further forward, risking it for the dries. But like you said here, lap 5, dries kind of stepped up.
Well, what was interesting too is Tristan Murphy and Michael McGoy both under the Ryan Perry Motorsport tent, and I talked to Ryan Perry about it. He said we gave them all the information, and we let the mechanics make the decision. So Murphy went with rains. McGoy's mechanic went with dries. And I want to say, who was the other one? Jackson Tovo was the other RPM. And I believe he went with rain tires as well. So McGoy was the only one under the tent that actually went with the dry tires. So lap 5 of the race, the sun is shining, and you can just see how the dry tire drivers are just knifing around the racetrack. So by lap 10, McGoy basically went from, I think he was 8th early on in the race because he didn't fall too far back. That was the one thing too, is being good on dry tires on a damp racetrack. McGoy kept it, was the one driver to kind of keep it very close, or at least towards the front of the field. But by lap 10, he was all the way up into the lead and just drove away, had a massive lead by the time he got past Royce Vega and Marco Romero, who were leading up front with the rain tires, and just drove away to an 8-second margin of victory for his first USPKS victory.
Yeah, let's throw this out there. Romero and Vega and Carter Barkas, who were out front early, not even coming home in the top 5. Where did they end up? Where did the guys in the wets end up when the things kind of went south on lap 5?
Well, first the top 5, Travis Pettit had a little bit of a slip up in the early laps, but was able to race his way up into the second spot. Clearly had a big advantage over the battle for third. That went down to the wire as Jackson Porter, making his Kart Republic Trinity Karting Group debut, was able to edge out Lucas Palacio for the third position, while Luca Mars put himself in the 5th spot. And I want to say there were 6 Trinity Karting Group Kart Republic drivers in the top 10. So kind of a big weekend for that group, especially with the new drivers they recruited on the weekend. But in terms of rain tires, the top driver on rain tires were Carter Barkas, finishing 12th, Mark Romero 13th, and then Royce Vega in the 15th position. So just outside the top 10 for those 2 drivers. They were able to hang on as best as they could on the rain tires. But when you look at best laps, the best lap of the race was a 13.8. And you look at Marco, his best lap was a 17.7. So nearly 4 seconds slower.
Okay. Yeah, well, it makes sense, right? It goes either way. Same thing happened in Utah. Like I said, the dries were better, but not until much later in the race. Obviously, lap 5. Guys that went dries made the right call. Tyrone Kemper, hard charger on the energy chassis, started 33rd, got his way up to 11th. I'm going to say he was very likely on the dry tires as well.
Correct. Yes, he was.
In the field. So good job for Tyrone. But congratulations to Michael Magoy on a big win. And again, wow, that back-to-back national weekends, they're having to deal with uncertain conditions and a call between dries and wets. Always, I find it as an announcer, always really intriguing race, David, when you have that kind of dichotomy. If
I recall, the Texas Sprint Racing Series had the same thing in Mini Swift as well, too. They had one driver. Yeah, I think they had one driver that went out on rain tires, or I can't remember which way it was, but however it was. But something about the Mini Swift category in wet weather this year. Maybe.
Right. Let's go to Micro Swift to cap off this edition of the Race Report. Micro Swift presented by Team Ferris Racing. Headline: win streak extended to 3 for Ives. There you go.
Yeah, the only blemish for Parker Ives in the Micro Swift category was qualifying. He just missed out on fast time in that session, as AJ Stoner was able to pick up the fast time to lead the field to the green flag in all 3 heat races. However, the front of the field ended up the same, with Parker Ives ahead of Maxwell Macha, finishing first and second in all 3 heat races. So they ended up securing the front row for the main event. And it was those 2 drivers out front for the majority of the race. Unfortunately, Macha lost the draft with Ives and wasn't able to bounce back and claw his way back forward. Parker Ives, however, was real consistent throughout the 16-lap main event, actually running his fast lap on lap 12. And then from there was able to take the checkered flag by just over 4 seconds for his 3rd straight victory.
Macha ends up in 2nd, DeGennaro in 3rd, Wyatt 4th, and Zane Burgess rounding out the top 5. Colton Schniegenberg with the Hard Charger Award, 17th up to 6th. All in all, David, what was the battle like behind the front-running duo?
Well, Macha actually, when he lost the draft, it was DeGennaro and Wyatt that were able to kind of run him down towards the end of the race. Unfortunately, they were unable to make a move. So the 3-driver fight for second ended up with no fireworks at the end as Macha took the position. But behind them, again, great. Again, Micro Swift drivers doing a great job keeping it on track. I believe we had one driver flip over, but the driver was able to walk away after lap 5. So aside from that, good racing across the board for Micro Swift category. Again, seeing these drivers continue to get more and more experience.
Love it. All right, folks, final break in the action for this edition of the Debrief. When we get back, we'll wrap things up. We'll have a look at the Constructors' Championship and then cap it all off with the EKN Trackside Live Race Calendar. In racing, experience is priceless. Franklin Motorsports is a leader in the karting industry with over 50 years of combined karting experience, and we can provide you with everything you need to go racing. With a large online product selection, select track support events, and a wide variety of shop services, Franklin Motorsports is your complete karting source. Check out our online store at www.franklinkart.com, where all our products are just a mouse click away. We're constantly adding to the growing product selection on the online store, and we ship daily to ensure products get to you quickly. We specialize in IAME engines, tilt seats, ceramic products, driveline branded products, Briggs & Stratton engines, OTK products, and of course, the championship-winning Merlin chassis. In our online store, you'll find a variety of items to fill your karting needs. Franklin Motorsports is also known for our wide variety of services and is home to Innovative Engine Works by FMS, our in-house engine service department. Frame straightening, kart prep, and dyno testing are all services offered regularly at Franklin Motorsports. For all things karting, visit franklinkart.com. CRG is one of the most iconic brands in karting, and we're primed and ready for the 2022 season with new material and a never-ending focus on winning. CRG Nordam is the North American distributor for all CRG products. Based outside of Houston, Texas, CRG Nordam supports CRG dealers across the continent, reaching every corner of North America. The CRG KT5 is our new chassis for tag and shifter racing, and it's been designed specifically for the US market. The KT5 features 30mm construction with a 32mm front loop to increase front grip. CRG's new VEN 13 brake system is cutting-edge technology with a master cylinder that allows for pressure regulation within the system. Drivers can customize brake pressure to their own requirements to improve feel and to avoid brake lockup. The kart is finished with new KG 507 508 bodywork that has refined aerodynamics and reduced weight. For cadet drivers, the 2022 CRG Black Mirror is already logging positive results to start the new season. This chassis will be making big waves in 2022. Longtime CRG drivers will be happy to know that the CRG Road Rebel, the standard in quality and performance, is still available. With four-cycle racing enjoying consistent growth in North America, CRG's FS4 chassis is the ideal choice for racers in Briggs & Stratton competition. From pure racing to karting entertainment, many tracks, both indoor and outdoor, have made the switch to the CRG Centurion rental kart line. 5 different models for both gas-powered or electric engines can fit any track's needs for a new rental kart fleet. CRG Nordam has a full inventory of rental karts available for new and existing facilities. For more information on the CRG product line, head to www.kartcrg.com, and to inquire about a North American dealer near you, please email us at info@kartcrg-nordam.com. Welcome back to episode 114 of the Debrief, our race report podcast of the USPKS event at Newcastle Motorsports Park, the Indiana Grand Prix in late June. Let's wrap things up here with David Cole, who was trackside for EKN throughout the weekend. David, wrap it all up. What are your final thoughts here before we head into the Constructors' Championship?
Yeah, for the most part, I think it was a good weekend. One red flag in practice, but no more red flags the rest of the weekend. We did have a couple of flips, as I said, well, the one in micro was the one that kind of stood out. We had a parent actually run across a live racetrack, and that's something we cannot have happen. And they disqualified the driver from the weekend. So we'll see if USPKS takes further action with that. But and again, parents, you got to remember, you cannot just run out onto the live racetrack. You're putting yourself, you're putting the karters, you're putting safety staff in danger. Yeah. All the staff workers that are with these programs, they understand the medical procedures they need to follow. They need to make sure first the driver is either hurt or not hurt, and then they'll take their steps from there. So, and again, it happened in practice too when that red flag happened, and that we just have to. The micro parents need to kind of take a step back, settle down, let the officials come to them, or go to the officials right away and figure it out from there.
Agreed. Yep. What else you got?
Good starts across the board, throughout the weekend. Obviously, pushback bumpers are the focal point at the starts of the races, and probably from all the heat races and all the main events, I didn't see any bad starts.
That's good.
In terms of drivers.
Let's be real. Newcastle with the first couple of corners, it can get ugly there, right? And it seemed like it was pretty clean.
It can. Yeah, it can. It depends on how the aggressiveness of certain drivers. Trying to make it 3 wide when you can't make it 3 wide. It's get through the double file start, get through the couple of corners, and then make then position yourself for the rest of the opening lap. So
Exactly.
drivers, so it seemed like the drivers had good heads on in terms of the starts. But again, bigger fields, I think maybe drivers are like, I can't lose a spot, so I'm going to settle down, get through. So maybe it's starting to work. I don't think it's necessarily the pushback bumper. I think it's just, the bigger fields is if I mess up here, I'm going to have to, I'm going to get a bad result and start in the back. So
that's it.
That's something we'll have to work on.
The consequences are there, right?
Yeah. And again, I'll get into more of that, of the racing part of it, especially with the junior drivers and K100 junior. I'll probably get into that and do another column, but
All right.
I almost had myself convinced that we only need one junior category at this level, but after this weekend, probably not. So I'll get into more of that in a column later.
All right. Another behind the laptop coming from David Cole, folks. All right.
Who doesn't want them?
I love them. They're great.
Yeah. And then, so now it's, it's preparing the Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati for the big show. They're going to be welcoming the United States Pro Kart Series for the first time in August. And now competitors have essentially 2 months to prepare for that race. And again, the 4th round championship's still up for grab. A lot can happen that weekend. And of course, at the finale at the Trackhouse Motorplex.
Yeah, especially with the drop still, right? Available. So
Exactly.
Even if you've had a bad one, you can fight on back. The guys we're going to talk about here right now, at least the manufacturers, didn't have much of a bad weekend. Although, David, based on what you've got here, interesting. 8 different classes, 8 different brands winning races. That's interesting.
I don't think we've had that happen at USPCast, especially the double weekend or the double round weekend. So, even Supernats, we've had multiple brands or a brand win multiple times, but this is certainly unique in terms of the Constructors Championship. We have Red Speed, GFC, Tony Kart, Cosmic, LN Racing Kart, Paralyn, Nitro Kart, and Techno Kart all taking a victory on the weekend.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah. So 1 win each for 8 manufacturers at the USPKS event at Newcastle. Let's cap off this edition and look forward now, as David's kind of already done a little bit. The EKN Trackside Live Race Calendar brought to you by DID Chain. Powered by technology, DID racing chains have a worldwide reputation for superior quality and reliability. A rich racing tradition where race results speak for themselves, DID prides itself on engineering the most technologically advanced chains on the market to help you excel on and off the track. DID's SDH pin treatment creates an extremely hard chromium carbide layer on the pin surface that houses a soft inner core to absorb extreme shock loads. DID's 219 HTZ racing chain boasts this same SDH pin technology, which leads to a longer chain life as well as excellent energy transmission to the wheels. Available in the gorgeous gold, the 219 HTZ is the ultimate racing kart chain. Pick up a DID chain at your local dealer today, because when winning is the only thing that matters, go with DID. All right, David, let's have a look at our EKN Trackside Live events. A couple of races on the docket here for July. First and foremost, a trip out to Pat's Acres Racing Complex, and then we'll cap it all off with the end of the Superkarts USA Pro Tour, the finale at the Summer Nationals on July 27th to the 30th.
Yeah, the special one-off Rock the Park at the park, Pat's Acres Racing Complex in Canby, Oregon. And then 2 weeks after that, heading back to the Newcastle Motorsports Park, and we'll wrap up the 2023 Superkarts USA Pro Tour with the Summer Nationals, which has been going to Newcastle since, 2015, I want to say, correct?
Hey, throw the number out. You're the stat man.
Well, 2014, we were at the famous Modesto Grand Prix, were we not?
We were. That's exactly right. Modesto.
So
my God. I'm shuddering over that one. 2:30 in the morning, wrapping up. Whoa.
What are you talking about? It was a great time.
It was a great time. It was
a terrible drive to the airport, but it was a great time in Modesto for us.
That
got
was fun.
VIP services. We got to street racing, night racing, all at the same time.
It was pretty badass. It was.
But again, the atmosphere was badass. The results, not so much. But
listen, Saturday was tough. Sunday was much better. Let's put it that way.
It was.
Remember back to that event, yeah. Anyways, the Superkarts USA Pro Tour Summer Nationals will cap off our July coverage, July 27, 28, 29, 30. David Cole and I will be there trackside for that one. Make sure to tune in to all the coverage that we'll have on our EKN socials. Looking forward to that.
Any other news surrounding that race?
Not yet. Not yet. Maybe some cool news about that race. We'll drop that.
I will say they're doing the reverse national reverse direction. So that's the exciting part. And if they do put the finish line at the original location, I love it. There's nothing better. Again, don't get me wrong, national layout, great, but national layout in a reverse direction.
That like that.
All right. That's just beautiful. It's beautiful.
All right. We'll look forward to that. Again, folks, that caps things off for this edition of the EKN Debrief. Thank you so much for tuning into this one. Obviously, it's been a fantastic show. A lot of great stuff. David Cole giving us the update. A little bit quicker show, David, when we only have one main event to talk about. I like that.
Well, that helps. Yeah. I mean, I could go on if you want. I mean,
that's good.
No? Okay.
That's good. I'm sure everybody's had enough. Listen, I don't want to, your voice is already strained, David. You haven't had to do one of these for like 6 weeks. You've been at home doing nothing while I've been out busting my tail on the road. So let's give your voice a little rest.
It's the vocal cords that aren't ready. It's not like I'm singing karaoke on the weekends. Come on.
That's true. That's very true. Very true. You should try that. Maybe we'll keep the pipes warmed up.
All right, there we go. No, hold on. I need to know this. What would be Rob Howden's top karaoke song to sing to?
I don't sing karaoke.
Oh my gosh.
I simply listen. I've said this before. It's one of the things that I wish I could do that I can't do. I just can't sing. I wish I could.
So all those nights at the Travolta's, you were faking it? Is that what you're telling me?
Oh, no,
were you Milli Vanilli in it?
No, listen, I was ripping it, but so were the other 1,000 people. Nobody could hear it over the top. I was fine there.
All right.
All right, folks, that wraps things up. This show was brought to you by Parallel USA. Shout out to them for, again, being part of the partnership family here at ekartingnews.com. We could not do what we do without all the partners that we have on EKN, so shout out to Parallel USA. This has been episode 114 of the EKN Debrief. David Cole giving us his full podcast report from this past weekend's USPKS event at Newcastle Motorsports Park. Appreciate you tuning in, folks. Lots more to come. There's just lots more races still to go in the 2023 season, leading to the SuperKarts USA Super National, the 26th running of that event in Las Vegas in November. But until then, lots more to come. On behalf of David Cole, folks, my name's Rob Howden. Bye for now.